Now, the big news inside of video games and the video game world, etc., which is normally something I don't touch upon, but I really will do, is the new Call of Duty game that is essentially anti-Russian and anti-Syrian propaganda. Now, normally I wouldn't pay much attention to this, but this does come at a time when the conflict that they're misrepresenting is actually going on. It's one thing to write a video game with a similar scenario that has totally nothing to do with the actual events, but to do it when it's actually going on and knowing the dishonesty that goes on behind the whole thing is quite different. There's a newfound realism of the game. They're using a morally gray area. That's usually how it's done, but this one is completely just U.S. imperialist propaganda. And what's important about this is that it's being fed to kids. It's not, just the mainstream media lying where they're lying, but being done to kids where they don't have the critical thinking skills necessary to criticize or to think critically about the thing that they're being fed. Now, the whole game takes place in a fictional Middle Eastern country called Urzikistan, whatever. It's not even a real country. And it's inspired by the Kurdish YPG, that be, of course, being the U.S. tools inside of Syria to fight the so-called Islamic State, ISIL, ISIS, Daesh, etc. So it's based on that whole situation. Now, it's interesting that the game's writers made some very interesting comments when they were coming up with the game. This whole other side of the war today that is real, that's happening, and to ignore it or not to cover it feels like it would be a terrible, terrible omission. It wouldn't be doing justice to unintended victims in these wars and the unsung heroes of these wars. That sounds like a really pathetic excuse to demonize Syria and Russia. Because you're literally lying. You're literally misrepresenting the reality of the situation on the ground. Now, having previously sided with terrorists to indiscriminately kill civilians in a false flag attack at a Moscow airport earlier in the franchise, players can now take up arms alongside Western-backed alleged Al-Qaeda affiliates, the White Helmets, which I object to the term alleged. They very much are Al-Qaeda, and I stand by that. With their constantly taking photos with them and committing beheadings, etc., as if merely standing on the side of U.S. imperialism wasn't bad enough. Then there's the whole faking chemical attacks, faking rescue services, and then the whole planking incident where the guy took a picture with his rescuers after he was trapped under a bunch of rubble and couldn't move. Allegedly. Now, the designers reportedly name-checked both Last Men in Aleppo and the Academy Award-winning bullshit documentary, The White Helmets, at a preview of the game at Infinity Ward's Los Angeles headquarters recently. Now, here's something. Here's a part of the game itself which is ridiculously dishonest. A little girl and her father flee the carnage, but a truckload of Russian soldiers arrive on the scene and begin indiscriminately firing at everyone in sight while using nerve gas. Seriously. Audible screams of women and children are heard over the din of gunfire and explosions as the protagonist flees with her father to find her brother. In other words, they're pushing the narrative of there having been a chemical gas attack, which chlorine, not nerve, which didn't happen. These were faked by the actual White Helmets themselves, but they're feeding this false line that it happened and that the Syrian government did it. Well, we're not saying they did it. It's this fictional country we just made up that did it. No one's fooled by that, of course. So the whole substance of their is lying. Well, this is nothing new for video games. I remember the first time I ever really noticed this was when SOCOM 2 came out, and you had to go into the jungles of Brazil and fight the totally not the FARC. And they wanted to blow up a hydro dam for no reason and essentially terrorize people. And the leader of any such movement would have to be a narcissistic psychopath, because nobody could actually really believe that the system is unjust and that it should be gotten rid of. But again, so this kind of putting propaganda into video games is nothing new. Now, one of the ones I did like was Battlefield Vietnam, because it was sort of balanced. But I mean, I just liked playing the game, so it doesn't really matter. We cannot expect these games to be unbiased. So anybody claiming that, this one's unbiased or that one's unbiased, or that they should just do unbiased games is nonsense. There is no such thing as unbiased. You're either challenging the establishment or you're going along with it. And if you're going along with it, that's a political statement in itself. So it's not one of those, oh, we can just ride the fence and say nothing, therefore we didn't do anything wrong. No. You're either defending the established way things are, or you're criticizing it. So, in a manner of speaking, man up and pick a side. I'm reminded of the old saying that if you sit on the fence long enough, you're eventually going to get a picket up your ass. And that's what might happen in these situations. So, I mean, we cannot expect the video game industry, which is dominated by capital, which is called capitalism, to just simply pump out information or propaganda designed to undermine the system itself. We know that's not going to happen. That's fine. I mean, we don't expect it. But I think it is important that we do know that it's there and be mindful of it, especially when we consider that these games are being fed to children, and these children don't have the cognitive skills necessary to be critical of the images that they find. One of the most pernicious things about propaganda is when it's given to you when you don't realize it. And in terms of kids, that's very easy to do. Kids and teenagers in general, it's very easy to give them this without them realizing it. And that's what we really need to do, is at least be mindful. I'm not saying don't play video games or anything like that, but that's lifestyle politics, and that's not going to accomplish anything. You want to play video games, because it doesn't make a difference either way. But be mindful of what you're being fed. Be mindful of what you're getting in, because that's how propaganda works.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.